Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Pope Metallicus, and welcome back to another episode of Rock and Roll Religion, where we got a bit of a different setup today. We're just going to be doing basically a general discussion on the guy because he has so many albums and so much work that it's impossible to kind of go over all of it.
He's an icon. He's an icon of
Yeah, and he's
film.
been there from the very beginning.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's just going to be kind of a celebration of the man
but,
himself.
yeah, the
A
inventor of shock rock.
Yeah, the
Period.
legend, the icon, the pioneer that is Alice Cooper.
And the sweetheart of a guy too.
Oh
You
yeah, I
know,
mean I've met the
every
man a
story
couple of
I've
times.
ever heard of people meeting him, he's a sweetheart.
Yeah, he's an absolute gentleman, and like you'd never expected seeing his stage show, but he's like the nicest, most down to earth guy of all time.
Mm.
Um, and he's the kind of guy he's Alice Cooper, but you'll run into him in the supermarket.
Yeah, or on the
Like,
golf course.
yeah, he's one of those guys that like he never let the success or the fame go to his head. And just became part of not only the scene itself, but kind of the progenitor of a lot of the aesthetic and feel of
Hmm.
the entire scene, with his like especially his stage shows. Because if you look at pre like 72, 73, when he was really starting to gain prominence, most of it was still just the band and maybe a couple of set decorations and stuff like that. It wasn't really the big productions that we're used to from the late 70s and 80s.
Right.
Whereas this man went full on vaudeville with it.
That's what I heard him say. He wanted to be Harold Maude or whatever her name was.
Yeah, basically, he wanted to be the rock and roll villain, essentially.
Yeah, the rock and roll villain. Yeah.
And I was watching an interview with him yesterday, I think, talking about like his early career and some of his stage performance. And he said two people that actually came and saw him live one time and actually really enjoyed the show were Groucho Marx and Mae West.
Really?
Two of the biggest like comedians and vaudeville performers of their day. Before,
yeah, it was the vaudeville people who actually really enjoyed and got Alice.
Yeah,
And what he was trying to do.
yeah, and like because it's very similar to what they did. It's over the top. It's overblown. It's like mustache twirling Saturday morning cartoon villain time, and like he's just playing the character.
Exactly.
And
the parents groups, the people like who went after heavy metal in the 80s, or the parents groups, they get the two confused. It's entertainment. Vincent, I mean, Ozzy said this the best. Vincent Price they never came after Vincent Price. They came after, but they come after me. Why?
Mm-hmm.
And this was all
and Ozzy's a character too. I mean, in his case, it's partially just his personality, but
absolutely.
But
he's a prince of darkness.
The character of Ozzy Osbourne.
The character of yeah. And I heard Alice say, "When I'm on stage, I'm Alice. I'm fully Alice, the character, and when I'm off, I'm just the regular me, Alice." You know?
Yeah, I think his real first name is Vincent, but
Vincent.
Yeah, he's like that's what you have to do as a stage performer, especially is you commit to the role. Is if you're gonna perfect example is Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man. It's like I'm gonna be Tony Stark. It's like when the camera's rolling, I am Tony. And like that's how you have to do it, and that's how you sell that role that convincingly.
And he did it to the point where his isms got into the character in the comic book.
Oh yeah,
or at least were reflected in like Saturday morning cartoon show versions of the Avengers at the time.
Oh yeah,
that Robert was playing the role, and it fit perfectly.
Yeah, and it's the same thing here, where like Alice Cooper became a huge part of the scene, the character himself, not even just the music, because he's not even really heavy metal, at least not at first. He's really much more on the hard rock side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the stage presence and the show and the character, he is just outlandish. anything anyone's ever seen before. And I think, I mean, you have a character like him, and he leads into all of these other ones we'd see later, like King Diamond is a perfect example,
Mm-hmm.
or Rob Zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Or
can't.
Marilyn Manson.
And I saw an interview about Alice Cooper with Rob, and he's just like, "How can you even follow that? That man did everything first."
Yeah.
It's
The
like,
snake. He did the snake. He did
yep,
the
like pretty much
paint.
anything you can think of, Alice did
He
it
did.
first.
I mean, even Blackie Lawless tried to outdo Alice with a kill, fuck, die. Couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I mean, it
because
was
Alice had
just
already done it.
Alice had already done it.
And both of them will admit to it. They're just like, no matter what you do, you're ripping Alice Cooper off. Like, no matter how out there you want to get on stage, unless you want to actually commit a crime,
It's like
Alice Cooper's
everything
already
old
done
that
it.
I can't wait to see. You have Greta Van Fleet doing the Led Zeppelin impression. I wonder when we'll get the other bands doing the Black Sabbath impressions and the Deep Purple impressions.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say that Greta Van Fleet's doing a Led Zeppelin impression so much as they
That's
like
an insult.
they sound very
Sorry.
similar, yes, but that's because I mean they're very blues influenced, just like Zeppelin was, and that's just where I forget the singer's name, but that's just where his natural range is. Just happens to be very similar to Robert Plant.
It's
Uh,
cadence.
so I think this is more like a new incarnation of that sound rather than somebody trying to rip off the old one.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're doing original stuff. They're not even. It's not like they're doing a bunch of Zeppelin covers and trying to pass it off.
Do they dress like Zeppelin?
A little more '60s hippie-ish, but kind of similar.
Okay.
Um,
I kind of would have expect. I would expect that from a band named Greta Van Fleet to look a little like that.
yeah, kind of very
Indie-ish.
very '60s and '70s rock and roll.
Yeah.
So not different from Zeppelin, but it's part of the
Close.
aesthetic and part of the band at this point.
Right.
And I will say their sound is a little different at times, but that's partially the sound they were going for too. Is a little bit more of a retro '60s and '70s vibe.
That's the funny thing. It's like, why do they sound so much like Zeppelin, but you listen to like Ambush or Riot City, and they have that sound of Priest, except Maiden, Halloween, but they don't sound like Priest, Hayden, except Halloween. Nor do they try to actively make you think they are. I get the feeling more from Greta Van Fleet that they're trying to at least create this imagery, this kind of mythology kind of around themselves. But that's me personally.
It could be. It could just be a natural evolution of that sound too. That I mean, Zeppelin did build that reputation around them,
Oh,
and they
absolutely.
did have that aura and air and all that around the band. So that may be it may be an intentional thing on their part. It may just be how they're doing stuff. Yeah, who
Mm-hmm.
knows? But if there's one artist I don't think will ever be imitated, it's this guy.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like, how can you? I mean, guys have based their characters off him. Like King Diamond again is a perfect example. It's like he's Alice Cooper cranked up to 11.
And he took it one step further by saying, "I am an actual Satanist," right?
Yeah, and that's part of the comedy of it. Is like if you've ever done like improv comedy, it's not tell the joke. It's and then you respond with something else. It's yes and.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take what you did and then build on it.
Right.
And then like one up it, and then it's just this constant escalation that builds the funny.
Yeah.
And it's a very fun style of comedy to do.
And with each escalation, you see a new generation of parents bitching about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like wrestling. It's the best example to use is pro wrestling. Everyone loves a good heel.
Yes, we do.
So, like, everybody out there who's a fan of like, Macho Man Randy Savage or whoever, like, those are those are the character. Although Macho Man took it to a whole nother level, where like anytime he was out in public, not even just at WWF events, like he was in character.
Oh my, yeah.
Like if you
Part
met
of
him,
that, I think, was just that was Randy Poffo himself.
well,
To
I
a
mean,
certain
at
extent.
a certain, the best characters are things that are aspects of yourself that you then put out into like over amplify and then put out.
Yeah,
So
The
part
Rock,
of it is Randy.
Stone Cold is the
Oh yeah,
same.
Stone Cold's one of the best. Goldberg.
Yeah, Goldberg, the only one who kind of is a variation of kind of an like way, because he is just a very kind of chill person in real life. Like he'll dress like that, but when he came back in 2004 as like the Dead Man character,
Yep.
kind of reinventing what debuted in 1990, he like totally recommitted to the kayfabe aspect of the character again, but like
And I think that's what's
incorporated,
missing
like
in a lot of modern stuff.
UFC and different things into his like wrestling war chest. He's my favorite because he thinks he thinks of things on like such a psychological level. The biker taker was just a pure like brawler, right?
Yeah.
And he had like no submission hold. It was all fucking like power bombs or tombstones, right? And then you get to the Return of the Dead Man character in 2004, and he's wearing like UFC gloves. He's doing like UFC submission holds at times, but he's still doing the old school Undertaker stuff. So he's introduced the best of the new and incorporated it into the best of the past to
Well, and that's what
create
you
the
see kind of
present.
in metal at this point is you see the best of the old stuff in bands like Ambush and stuff like that, but you also
Right.
see the older bands like Saxon and Judas Priest mixing in modern elements,
That is
especially
true
new
too.
production techniques into
Using you.
their
Mhm.
sound and iterating on itself.
Yeah.
And that's one thing Alice has done very well is take what's more modern. Like musically, he evolves quite a bit over time. Like 80s Alice Cooper sounds nothing like early 70s
Oh, absolutely.
Alice Cooper. And like he had a lot more like jazz influence and a lot more like slow pace stuff early on. And then if you look at the late 80s, he's basically straight up heavy metal with songs like Poison or stuff like that. But he never lost that character that made
Right.
Alice.
I love that song. Something Red Lace, Red Roses on that one album I got.
Oh yeah, shit. I remember.
White Lace, Red Roses. Some
Yes,
shit. That is fucking awesome. I love that song.
it's a great, and he has so many of them too. From like his early hits, like "School's Out" or "No More Mr. Nice Guy."
Yeah.
And he's at his best when he's at his angriest too. I think.
Yes. 18.
Yeah, 18. Or "No More Mr. Nice Guy." It's almost proto punk in the attitude.
Yeah. I would say John Schaefer is at his best too when he's the angriest.
Yeah, kind of. But which if he ever gets released from prison, I can't wait to hear what he comes out with next because that's going to be interesting stuff.
I thought he got out, or
does he?
Did he
Is
just
he out
get
already?
I think he was released on bail. I don't know if he's back in the pokey. I know. See, he knew. He knew he had no idea when he was doing this, but as soon as it started happening, he realized it was a psyop.
Yeah. Oh,
and
Roses on White Lace. That's the one.
Roses on White Lace. Thank you, Soul Assassin. I can't see the chat. I'm on my phone. I can't see the chat from here.
Currently, let's see who we got. We got Lord Thoth and Soul Assassin in here. Praise be Lord Thoth. Good to see you, man.
Lord Thoth.
And Soul Assassin too.
Assassin, hail, bro.
And yes,
I love the Avatar.
And yeah, Soul. There will never be another rocker like Lemmy, but he's up there. He's up there with the pantheon with Dio, Halford,
right,
Ozzy, obviously Lemmy.
I would put Alice over Bruce Dickinson
In terms of impact,
in
absolutely.
terms of impact. Yeah.
In terms of like musicality, Bruce is by far the better singer.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
in terms
absolutely.
of cultural impact on the genre, I don't think anybody short of Ozzy can come to where Alice Cooper is.
Right.
Because I mean, from the leather to the mascara to like the stage shows to like just the general creepy vibe of a lot of his
I,
music.
that
There's a
crow
lot of
character. That
he's
crow character.
it's so unique too.
Yeah.
There's nobody like Alice.
No, there's
I mean, and Ozzy's been famous for saying it too, where like there's only one Lemmy,
right.
and there is only one Alice Cooper,
Right.
and everyone knows. I mean, and that's how you can know. Like even guys who are way heavier than him and way younger than him all look up to Alice Cooper
Right.
because they've
It's
all
like
toured with him too. Because he's been a working musician his entire fucking life. I mean, when he's not in the studio, he's on tour.
Jesus, he's like 75. He's still doing it. God
Yeah, he's
bless
been
him.
around since 1969 when he released his first album, and he's still doing it now.
Good for him, man.
And some of his new stuff is really good too. Did you? I asked you to listen to one song before we came on that he did with Phil Campbell in 2019.
Oh, I forgot. I didn't do
It's
it.
a solid hard rock tune. It's off of the album Old Lion Still Roar. It's actually like a collaboration album that Phil Campbell did with a whole bunch of singers. Like Rob Halford's on there. Alice Cooper's on there. Unfortunately, Dee Snider's on there. Although I will say
I'll skip that track.
he actually did a good performance on this one, and this is before his little meltdown on "Just take your
Wait,
vaccine." Yeah, fuck you.
his vocals are still good at this
Uh,
time.
yeah, pretty much.
All right.
It's the best he's sounded in a long, long time.
Oh, okay.
And he also did an instrumental with Joe Satriani, which is cool as fuck.
All right.
But yeah, I mean,
Put a link here if you.
yeah, I'll see if I can't link it in the private chat here. Let me see if I can pull it out.
Or you can just send it to me on Gilded.
Yeah, I'll send it to you after the show.
Yeah, that would work better for me.
Because I found out about it through Spotify. So, but yeah, I'll look it up and send it to you. It's a brilliant record. Everybody else should be listening to it as well. It's Phil Campbell. So the second guitarist for Motorhead.
So
brilliant
is it
artist.
So is it a Phil Campbell record?
It's a Phil Campbell record. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically Phil Campbell featuring a whole bunch of other people. And it's different from Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. So
it's sort of like Alice Cooper's album, Hey Stupid, but it's Alice Cooper.
Very similar. Which is an excellent record.
That's the album that got me into Alice Cooper. All right, let's get to it. Wayne's World is what hearing Feed My Frankenstein is what got me into Alice Cooper in the first place.
Fair enough.
Then I found Hey Stupid at my local library. Went back, listened to it because it had Feed My Frankenstein. And it has some other songs that are just fucking awesome bangers. Like there's Thunder. God damn it. I don't have the track listing.
I mean, I can look that up for a second here. But no, I mean, I got into it actually at a very young age because WZLX, Boston's old classic rock station, was still playing 70s stuff at this time because, I'm that old. And they used to play No More Mr. Nice Guy a lot.
Yeah.
So I got really into that through that as a kid and then, found out more of Alice Cooper.
You know what sucks is that as I've gotten older, the rock stations in my area have just like died out.
Yeah, none of them are around anymore.
And when we say local stations, we're referring to like local AM, FM stations. Yeah. Like there were three. There was like 105.3, live 105.3. This is like back in the day. You have to.
Yeah, back when I was a kid, Boston had three. Yeah. We had ZLX for the classic stuff. We had BCN for the new stuff, and WAAF for the more heavy metal stuff.
Totally same. The the
And then we also got Rock 101
1077,
out of Manchester in New Hampshire.
and then we had 98.5, which was all classic rock. We had live 105.3, which is all like played like the new metal shit at the time. And then we had 1077 The Bone, and they would have Metallica, mandatory Metallica Fridays, which was all Metallica stuff for like an hour,
Nice.
deep tracks. And then right after that was like the Bone Metal Zone, which was 2 hours of heavy metal songs from like 12 midnight to 2 a.m. That's where I first heard Primal Fear.
Nice.
It was Black Sun, the song. If you ever heard the song Black Sun,
Oh yeah.
holy shit.
Primal Fear is fucking awesome. We're gonna have to do an episode on them.
Imagine hearing that song in 2002.
Yeah, especially
my
given that what we grew up with was like Corn, Slipknot,
Corn,
all that kind of stuff.
Slipknot, Limp Bizkit. It was just Linkin Park. Everybody thought heavy metal was that. I'm like, not really. Close.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it is, but there's also this.
There's also, it's really kind of like a distant incest, kind of thing, cousin between multiple, partners kind of thing.
Heavy metal from wish.com.
Heavy metal from wish.com. Yes.
It's, basically the super watered down. Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember him being on the Muppet Show.
That's right.
Oh, that was a great episode. The Muppet Show was fucking awesome in general, but yeah, I remember him being on there. That was a great episode.
Wow.
I mean, like that was how cool TV used to be back in the day. Is you'd have Alice Cooper as the musical guest on the Muppet Show. Like that was just awesome.
See, I think what made Alice a little bit more accessible to the certain mainstream is that people would actually go up and meet him, and they'd be shocked that their impression of him was completely different from the human being.
Oh yeah,
and maybe that's why he got onto.
Well, also he was a little more acceptable because his music was a little more toned down, and also he never swore, and there was no nudity on stage.
Oh, okay.
And that he mentioned that in the interview as well, is because that's just that's easy,
right?
It's like the suggestion of it and like the inference of it is what draws people in,
right?
So like he, instead of going for like the cheap, like essentially the cheap gratuity of it, he went with suggesting it almost like burlesque rather than like an actual stripper.
Right. That's a perfect analogy.
It was more a little bit more theatrical. We'll put it that way.
You know how they have the little cups on the nipples with the little twirly things? Yeah. It was that.
So like, you suggest it, but you don't show it.
Right.
So that I think was really where he stood apart. Is a lot of later bands did. I mean, like, let's face it. Let's look at Wasp, shall we?
Yeah. I mean, you got to admit it,
another
Blackie.
one who took what Alice Cooper did and ran with it.
Exactly. And he can't say anything about Marilyn Manson. He can't.
Manson was not my favorite artist, but again, it was that theatrical performance.
Right. Neither was mine. He was never mine, but I saw him live once, and he
that's what I've heard. Is live, he's actually pretty. It's a spectacle. I'll put it that way. Like music may not be the best thing you've ever seen, but holy shit, is it a great time?
Yeah, it is, and he does a good job entertaining the audience.
Yeah, and Rammstein's like that.
Yeah.
Where it's Rammstein. Like, the music's pretty all right, but nothing out of the ordinary, really. But the pyrotechnics and the stage show is just absolutely mind blowing.
That's a band I got to cross off the list.
I got to see live when they came through in 2012. That was absolutely phenomenal. Like we were like halfway back in the crowd, and you could still feel the heat from the freaking pyro.
You know what's bullshit is all of these little fucking people coming out of the woodwork going after Marilyn Manson, going after Till Lindemann, the singer for Rammstein, now accusing them with what evidence? And then because we're in this kind of climate, let's say, they get demonized in the media before there's even a trial. It's
Oh yeah, I mean
ridiculous.
that's why we didn't used to do this. It was you make an accusation in court, it's settled, and then you do it because otherwise it's just smear merch. Then that's all fucking media is now is just tabloid bullshit, and not even fun tabloid bullshit. Like shit like you used to see in like the National Enquirer and stuff in the grocery store. Some of those covers are hilarious.
I knew when they stopped selling the National Enquirer, we were fucked.
Yeah, because like everyone knew it wasn't real. It's the same thing as wrestling. Everyone knows it's made up.
It's
like
the storytelling that's what makes
it's
wrestling
storytelling
compelling.
with an athletic component. Like, yes, we
Yes.
know it's a narrative. We know it's not,
We know the
real
matches are
wrestling.
predetermined, but it's a storyline that's interesting. Like the storyline with Kane and Undertaker, for example.
Yeah, or the constant tension between Hulk Hogan and Macho Man over Miss Elizabeth.
Right.
It was like that was the cool storytelling, and it made for why these guys have to fight. And then I think they teamed up against what was it, Immortal Warrior and somebody else.
Yeah, it's the superpowers, right?
Yeah,
the mega powers.
Yeah, the mega powers. Yep. Like and like that, it's all that story time and those characters, which are in the best case is just exaggerated versions of their own persona. Which is
exactly,
great.
And that's what fans of wrestling don't understand today. And I got to call some people out on the carpet for this.
That's what's
not
missing from modern
individually.
wrestling. That's why no one watches.
Yeah, it's missing characters, storytelling.
Yeah, where is your immortal warrior? Where is your immortal warrior? Where is your Roddy Piper? Where is your Macho Man?
Right.
It's like that's not been a thing since what? Probably the late 90s.
Yeah, if that. I mean, we for a little bit, and that had that's where you had like Eddie Guerrero doing the lie, cheat, and steal thing.
Yep.
You had what else?
I think Goldberg was still around by then.
Goldberg was still around doing like
and Stone Cold
stuff.
as well.
And Stone Cold and Brock Lesnar was doing awesome stuff with Paul Heyman. That was fucking incredible.
Back when Brock Lesnar was still like,
he was fresh. I mean, he was like, because he was in the same class as Randy Orton, Batista, and John Cena. They were all at Ohio Valley.
And they picked John Cena to be the next big star. Like, yeah, he was fun for a while, but where is he at now?
I hate Super Cena. As soon as I didn't mind the Thugonomics gimmick. I thought it was a little too mark at times, but ultimately it worked for him because he was good. He could come up with lyrics and verses and entertain the crowd. As soon as he became hustle, loyalty, respect, I was like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
and I blame.
I will say I respect Cena for what he does with the fans, like especially kids.
That's true.
He's great with them. Absolutely fucking adore it.
And like, there's only one person we have to blame.
I remember one of my buddies, his kid, unfortunately had to go through chemo.
Oh Jesus!
And so me and the other guys in my vets group, like all like kind of like tried to get his attention on Twitter, and actually got to talk to him.
Good.
And he actually recorded like a 5-minute whole message for him, like heartfelt, and then how to send it to him, both for him and his son. So like I will say he is actually a good person. I just don't like his character. But no, getting back to the music, that's like, I mean, Alice understood that, the music is part of it, but it's part of a larger experience too. It's more like musical theater than it is
an audio.
Because anybody can put on a rock show at this point. It's the early 70s.
Right.
Like there's a million rock bands out there. Not only is he going to go and put on a rock show, you're going to see the circus sideshow from the early 1900s.
Yeah, with the freaks and
Yeah, I mean,
the
like Soul
knife
Assassin said,
throwing.
like Soul Assassin said earlier, he was cutting off his own head every night.
Right.
It's like one part magic show, one part circus, and one part rock and roll band. It's
Right.
like so it's the whole experience, and that kind of changed how rock bands do things.
And
'Cause-
at the same time, like kind of almost like a couple years after they came out with was Billion Dollar Babies released in 71 or 72?
74.
Oh, so the same year as Kiss released
Yep.
their first album. See, Kiss, I was going to make the connection between Alice and Kiss. Alice was shock rock, but what Kiss did was a little similar, and in the sense that the music was one part, but it was the theatrical part and the character part that
Yeah,
made
that was
Kiss.
one thing that Kiss definitely honed in on. They just didn't have the musical talent or authenticity to back it up. Unlike Alice Cooper, who just does what he does and has never really changed. And then
Yeah.
you had a guy like Gene Simmons trying to market the shit out of the band from basically 74 to now.
Yeah.
Where Kiss is more of a brand than they are a actual musical outfit at this point.
Yeah. I guess if I grew up like Gene Simmons did, I'd probably want to trademark
That's
OJ's.
fair. Although I think one of the funniest memes when the Rona first happened was like that was going around on Facebook at the time was
Understood.
was basically like, this is how we know this is real. Do you have any idea how much it takes for Gene Simmons to turn down paying gigs? Even all the hardcore metalheads are like, yeah, you know what? You're not wrong. But no, I mean, Alice, but like that was the thing. I think Kiss was missing is that authenticity.
Yeah, and that edge. Kiss never
Yeah.
had that edge.
Yeah, Kiss was
And
like the family-friendly version of that, where like, oh yeah, there's some like kind of
yeah, that they
gimmicks and stuff like that, but they weren't like cutting Gene Simmons' head off on stage every night.
right. He was just kind of spitting up blood, which
Yeah,
is
it's like
different.
they were the tamer version of that. Like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And they had different characters, which kind of split the overall experience across four characters. So you had a demon with Gene Simmons who
Yeah.
spit blood. You had the Star Child with Paul, who's just about being the almost like a Freddie Mercury type star or a movie star. He said, like a Cary Grant or something like that. And you have the Catman. I don't know what the fuck that was about with Peter, but then you have Ace with the spaceman thing. And it's just these four cool, unique characters that they all came up with that still hold up.
Yeah, I mean, like the initial concept behind it wasn't bad. I just don't think after a while they stopped being a rock band and started being too much of the show.
Yeah.
And they turned from an Alice Cooper like shock rock band into the Harlem Globetrotters of music.
Yeah.
Where the whole thing's just a sideshow and nobody really cares, but it's fun to watch, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas Alice to this day is still shocking and still like jarring to see live because like the music, I think especially because the music doesn't match what you're seeing. Like the music's actually fairly tame for a metal band anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you're seeing some pretty outlandish stuff up on stage of like basically magic tricks from hell. And
shit, why haven't I seen Alice Cooper live then? Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like he's not, I won't say he's my favorite artist because he's not, but he has some great stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's just, he's never one of the ones I'll like reach for.
Right. It's not like I have to see him. Yeah, for me, it's like if I want to catch an Alice Cooper like live performance, I'll probably watch it on YouTube rather than
But
try to go.
I would love to go see him live.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think I
hear it.
ever have, but I will absolutely try to go see him live. Same thing with King Diamond. I've never seen him live, and I've seen some of the live stages and shit. I want
I
it so
fuck.
fucking bad.
I fucked up so bad in 2019. He came to the SF Warfield in
I
San
was really
Francisco.
fucking mad last year because November 7th, he was playing as part of Merciful Fate
Right.
in Boston. I was moving the 11th.
That don't you
So
hate
I was
when
already packed
fucking
up,
that
ready to
shit
go and
happens?
moving.
Yeah.
So I was just like, no.
I
I
know what
finally
you
get to
mean.
see you as part of Merciful Fate. No, it's like the first time you've toured with him in 20 years, but no, I have to be moving that day. Fortunately, I still got to see Priest in Boston, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert, stay tuned for the end of the episode, kids. We have some news for you.
It's some good ass news, man.
We have some
Some
very
good
good
ass news.
news in this very interesting weekend of, oh my God, the sky is falling, to say the least. And yeah, Alice is one of the guys who backs up what he says. And yeah, I saw that a couple of months ago that people were coming after him for something. I don't know what that is. He's basically the most non-offensive guy I've ever heard of.
Oh, because he's a conservative, and he probably said
He's not
something.
even that much of a conservative.
He'd be a '90s Democrat by
Yeah,
today's
he's like
standards.
he's the good kind of conservative of, yeah, I don't give a shit, do what you want. But
Yeah.
I don't think you should, and here's why.
Right.
And he's basically your dad. It's like, if you do really want to do this, I'm not going to stop you, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's what I hate about the modern internet culture is just like, oh my God, he said this 25 years ago. Everybody
And then
said
you,
shit 25 years ago. Fuck off.
I know. Yeah, you want to every time Sebastian Bach, and I'm not talking about the actual, classical
Yeah.
composer.
The singer
Every
from
time, every time he fucking puts out some stupid statement on Twitter, people instantly just respond with him wearing the AIDS shirt.
Yep.
And deservedly so. Because if you're going to bitch and complain about something, you're going to get that thrown right back in your face.
Mm-hmm. And I love, more of the like internet, like kind of the trolley type of stuff that Slayer was doing. Like, remember, I think it was Kylie Jenner or one of the Kardashians, or
Oh yeah,
got photographed somewhere wearing a Slayer t-shirt. Obviously, a
right.
poser. Let's face it, she doesn't listen to Slayer.
No, she doesn't.
And so Tom Araya came out that night, or was it Tom Araya or Kerry King?
It was Gary. It was Gary Holt. I think he was wearing the kill the Kardashian shirt.
No, it was Kerry King. I think.
Okay.
Was photographed on stage that night with a shirt that says "Kill the Kardashians."
Okay. So it was like that. It was like when he first heard about it. Okay.
Yeah, that's that fun, like, that's that kind of fun, like, yeah, cool, you're wearing my shirt. Fuck you anyway.
Yeah.
I hate everything you stand for.
Fuck you and your fucking
right?
fake plastic life.
Yeah, and like that, and that's the fun stuff. But like, Sebastian Bach trying to virtue signal on Twitter is just, or D. Snyder at this point, it's just like, this is just sad.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys know better.
Should know better.
Be better.
You have become the very thing you swore to destroy, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's like they say in The Dark Knight: you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
That's right.
And hey, Christian, good to see you, man. Glad you could make it. We're talking, really good one this year, and a good time for one for this time of year too, because he's very much into like the Halloween kind of.
I can't even believe it's October.
Yeah, right. But it very much leans into the horror theme of music very, very heavily, and the aesthetic, like that more gothic, just kind of eerie aesthetic, which I love. And he's worked with some brilliant artists too. Like, people like to give her shit, but Nina Strauss is one hell of a guitar player.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. She gets a lot. She does. She gets a lot of. I don't
Like,
know
she's
how
not
much
the
shit
best
she got in
guitar
the
player I've
beginning.
ever heard of, but she's damn good.
She is. I mean, she matches the best guitarists that Alice Cooper's had throughout his career.
Oh yeah.
And
And
she's even
like I
better
said,
than
Alex
some
has
of
never
them.
been about musical technicality or whatever, but she does really well with him.
Yeah.
And from everything I've heard from both of them, they genuinely enjoy working together. In that, like, she gets where he's at. He loves having
For positive energy around kind of thing.
like he loves having her around because, like, any singer is really, really happy when you get musicians that can just do whatever you want. It's like you
And
want to
just
go
kind of click. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, or you want to go really over the top, she can do that. Like, you want to play kind of a more of a straight ahead rock tune, she can do that too. Yeah, and yeah, Soul Assassin. The fact that she's hot as fuck probably doesn't hurt either.
No, it doesn't.
And yeah, I remember you saying that to me on Gilded, man. And that's what we're here for, is to make old people look cool to their kids. Or
Oh
wait,
my God.
at this point, we just look like old farts talking about shit that's happened 35 years ago. But no, dude, Soul Assassin, that would be a hell of a lineup. Alice Cooper, Halloween, and King Diamond.
The only
I
thing that
wouldn't
would stop
swear
me
that could
from
ever
seeing,
happen.
I swear to God, the only thing that would stop me from seeing that show would be Iced Earth, one last gig,
Yeah,
and then you never see them again. I would sell a kidney to see the final Iced Earth show,
yeah. I mean,
even
let's
over a Metallica show or Judas Priest final show.
yeah, like anybody's like final tour or final gig, like that's worth going well out of your way for. But that is a lineup I would basically, unless I was on my deathbed, I'd be going.
Right, exactly.
A chance to see all three of those guys on the same stage, especially like on like a Halloween night or something like that, that would be
Right.
absolutely phenomenal.
I'd love to see like a metal version of the Hollywood Vampires with like members of
He actually, Alice just actually did a album with the Hollywood Vampires, I think,
yeah,
not too long ago.
they play all the time pretty much. I don't
Yeah,
know who's in the band.
I'm trying to think of the name of Rise. That was it, I think. Is it Rise or Paranormal? Rise is the name of the album.
Okay.
It's basically Hollywood Vampires, Alice Cooper, and Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
So, which I think fits really well because Johnny Depp's always been, again, into that kind of gothic or like Tim Burton-esque aesthetic,
Absolutely.
and something that Tim Burton kind of got from Alice Cooper.
And Vincent Price.
Yeah, sure, that as well. But Alice
And
definitely
Alice Cooper. You're right about Alice Cooper because in the 2012 film of what the fuck was it? Dark Visions? It's where Johnny Depp plays a vampire.
Oh shit. Not Dark Visions. I know the one you're talking about though.
Yeah, it has Alice Cooper in it singing like live, playing in the movie.
I'm not surprised at that. I think those guys have been friends for a lot of years now. And so Dark Shadows, that was it.
Dark Shadows, that's it.
This is why we have the chat. They know all the shit we forgot.
The chat is unbeaten.
No,
chat is
undefeated. And so the Hollywood Vampires are pretty good. Like, they're not the most amazing thing I've ever heard, but they're all right. But no, I mean, when you talk about this guy's career too, the man's been doing this for over 50 years.
Yeah.
And still has not only not fallen off, but he's still stayed true to that original idea and original gig or not gig, but style that is Alice Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And has just kind of iterated on it over the years. Like, it's gone through periods. He's the darker version of David Bowie. Whereas there's different versions of David as you go along through his career, like the whole Ziggy Stardust thing, which was an interesting time. There's a lot of drugs going around in the 70s, so I hear.
Uh-huh.
And then in like the 80s, like you had like a little bit more like the metal Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And it goes through different eras, but it's still the same core and the same character.
And the same modus operandi.
Yeah, I mean, it still
Are
has
you
the
not?
same DNA
Yeah. Are you
without
not
sounding stale
entertained?
over time.
Right. Without sounding stale.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as Motorhead. Like, do all of the Motorhead albums sound similar? Yes, in that they all sound like Motorhead. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, Lemmy's voice sounds the same." No, the fuck they don't. It's like each Motorhead album has their own little sound to it.
Yeah, ask him. Listen to Whorehouse Blues, and then listen
Mhm.
to Ace of Spades, and tell me if that's
Yeah,
you know
right.
exact. Yeah,
Or even Bastards and Ace of Spades.
yeah,
Like they're not similar albums, but they all sound like Motorhead.
right,
And so, like, there's a difference between consistency and self quotation.
right.
And
Recycling yourself.
yeah, and Iron Maiden could learn that difference.
Iron. I have a lot to
And
say
this is the
about
part of
Maiden.
the show every week where we shit on Iron Maiden for a while.
I love Iron Maiden, but
I think
they've
that's why I'm so hard on them is because I love them so much.
yeah,
And I've
exactly.
seen what they've turned into.
It's like when you're disappointed with your dog or your son or if anybody has kids out there. It's just I'm not sad. I'm just disappointed.
Or that one friend who like you thought you could really count on and he just lets you down.
Yeah,
You're
it's
just like,
like, damn it.
I'm not
I'm
mad.
the one.
I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, and then it's like our relationship can never be the same
Yeah, it's
because
like
you
that,
did it once.
like you've like especially after the late 90s and into Brave New World, it's like, yes, like the new album's great. That doesn't erase what you did before it.
Right.
That's never going away now. It's the same thing with Priest and some of their 90s stuff. It's like, don't get me wrong, I love you boys. Some of that stuff
Right.
wasn't great. Demolition exists. And it's
I'm
never
gonna
going to
say
not exist.
I'm gonna say this. I don't think those Priest records with with Tim Ripper, I don't think that's even Tim Ripper's best albums.
No, that's not his best performance by far. And I can't, Demolition especially, Jugulator is pretty good.
Jugulator, you could put it like top 3 in terms of his performance.
Yeah,
I would say
one in terms of his vocal performance. I'd say Jugulator, he's really good. Demolition, I don't think it's his fault because they're playing a different key.
Right.
So, and I don't think that's a key he does really well with. It's a weird valley in his vocal range where like you can go above that or below that and he's fine, but don't be right there.
Right.
It's just not a pitch that he does well in. And yeah, I would say it's safe to call Alice Cooper the godfather of metal in that he's not quite in the family, but he's responsible for a lot of it.
Right.
Although if you ask Lemmy, he was never part of the metal community either.
We are Motorhead.
Although a lot of that was just Lemmy being Lemmy. You just wanted to say that because, Motorhead's different.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, heavy metal, it's all rock and roll. At the end of the fucking day,
well, yeah, I mean,
it's all
metal is a subset of rock and roll, so both things can be true.
Yes.
It's one of those all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Alice is definitely hard rock, and some of his stuff borders into the metal side. And it's like I brought up on Thursday's Genesis, with the rise of heavy metal. He's not really that hard, and he's not really in the genre. But neither were a lot of the bands I brought up there. Like Deep Purple's not really a metal band,
right?
MC5 either, but they're certainly an influence on it.
Blue Cheer, Cream.
Yep. I also brought up Uriah Heep, who necessarily metal, but really, really good.
Yep. But then you get to Sabbath, and it's like,
well, yeah, because they were the formation of that genre of music, and later bands iterated on it and perfected it, but they created the sound. They're the Venom of the original heavy metal.
And to know that it comes from a place of horror, a place of darkness. It creates this incredible ambiance
Yeah,
inside
yeah.
your mind. Like smoke some good dope or take a shroom or two and then listen to the first Black Sabbath album
Not that we
alone.
encourage drug use on this channel, YouTube.
Not that we encourage drug use on this channel. Drugs are bad.
Yes, drugs are
Okay.
bad and you shouldn't do them, but
You shouldn't do them. Okay. Drugs are bad. Okay. But
but
yeah.
if you're going to anyway,
But if you're
there
going
are
to
worse
anyway,
albums to listen to than the first Black Sabbath record.
the first Black, yeah, it'll
First
freak
two
you
Black
the
Sabbath records.
fuck out. It'll freak you the fuck out. It's awesome.
No, I mean, and Alice
Especially
was right
on
there at the same time. Like, you know, by
Right.
73, he was almost as popular as they were.
Oh, he was in
And-
Rolling Stone all the time.
Yeah, and he actually started right about the same time they did.
69. Yeah.
So they, you know, kind of tracked right together. And he was more the softer sounding, but much more visually, you know, out there
Right. And then
one.
Black Sabbath was the guys that, you know, they look like you're like a bricklayers, but
Well, they were.
sounded.
Well, I mean, you had two of them who worked in the iron works.
Right.
Ozzy, who worked in a slaughterhouse, and Bill and Geezer Butler, who was an accountant that dabbled in witchcraft, which shows. And although back then witchcraft could mean anything from, you know, growing pot in your basement to like actually, you know, Aleister Crowley type shit.
God bless Geezer Butler, man, because
One of the great fucking songwriters of
a great song. Yeah, exactly.
one of the brilliant.
He does
bass
not get
guys
enough
I've seen,
credit
too.
for his songwriting ability,
And
that's
pretty
why
much right off the bat he showed his chops on the bass too, with that with bass intros like NIB, like and
exactly.
that jazzy bass intro, and everyone's just like, "What the fuck?"
Exactly. And I mean, you wonder why, like, the first person Cliff Burton mentions, he's like, Geezer Butler's my favorite.
Well, he
And-
did everything too. He's like the musical version of Alice Cooper is for, like, you know, the aesthetics and the stage presence, where pretty much no matter who you are and what kind of metal you play, you have ripped off one of Geezer Butler's bass riffs.
True.
Straight up.
True.
Say you've done it.
Maybe not.
Maybe you didn't
Van
want
Halen.
to. Maybe you didn't intend to, but you did it.
Maybe one occurrence, and I would say it would be Michael Anthony on Running with the Devil, but I might be wrong.
He's another one that
Doesn't get enough credit.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously everybody in that band is going to pale in comparison to the mountain of talent that was Eddie Van Halen, but
Shit, his own brother is an amazing drummer. But
that was the thing too. All of them were really fucking talented musicians. David Lee Roth was the, you know, slouch of the group, basically.
Yeah, musically. Yeah.
And he's a good singer. I wouldn't say he's amazing, but he's
a damn good singer. He's a damn good singer.
Yeah.
And by the way, Ralph Vieira said this. He's the best front man he's ever seen live. And if you know Ralph Vieira from the Almost Human channel, he goes to concerts like people go through cornflakes. So he would know.
The only guys I would put up there with a guy like David Lee Roth in terms of a front man, in terms of like the stage presence, would be guys like Little Richard, Freddie Mercury, and probably Alice Cooper.
I would add to that. I would say Ozzy too.
Ozzy at certain points of his career, yeah.
But the way they could just kind of just grab your attention and just put you in the palm of your hand, put you in the palm of their hand, kind of, you know, where you really
that was like Freddie Mercury's super.
Freddie Mercury,
just
exactly.
You just walk out on stage and just, you belong to me now.
Exactly. What artists are like that? Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Prince was like that a lot.
Prince was like that. Had that. Yeah.
Even some of the more black metal stuff, like it's more on the Alice Cooper side of it too, of like the stage show and all the crazy, you know, demonic things you're going to see up there.
Yeah.
but it's captivating in a way too.
Like Cradle of Filth.
Cradle of Filth is a good example of it. If you've ever seen Behemoth or Vatane live, they're outstanding. Which we may do some more black metal stuff with our good friend Imperatus in the near future, because it is October. So
I would like to hear what he has to say about fucking Cradle of Filth, because he, his tastes are like mine. If I like something, I like something. If I don't like something, I don't like something, and I'll tell you if I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, Cradle of Filth's an interesting one. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I'm also not the biggest death metal fan. So,
right.
I
like their cover of Hallowed Be Thy Name, so I started listening to them, and I'm like, okay, they've got some good stuff. I'm not going to buy like a bunch of albums, but I could listen to a few of the YouTube tracks. Yeah, they're fucking cool.
And Lord Thoth, I mean, that's what I like doing these like kind of less organized videos sometimes, is just to kind of like just see where the conversation goes. Like, and a guy like Alice can touch on so many different things,
right?
From black metal to the glam metal scene of the '80s to to the trad heavy bands, to the goth movement, to all of it. Like, it all stems back from this one dude. And this
I never
one dude from Arizona with a fucking idea and his mom's mascara.
So wait, Alice is actually born and raised and from Arizona?
I think so, yeah.
That's nuts. I thought he was like Rob Halford and just kind of like moved there and lived there.
I think he's actually from there. Although I know he lived in the Boston area for a while because he had a radio show on ZLX.
Okay. Cool.
Called Nights with Alice Cooper. I don't know if that was nationally syndicated, but I think he lived in Reading for a while.
Okay.
Because I know my buddies run into him a couple of times, and he's from Reading. So,
question.
And hey, Boosh, good to see you, man.
When you said even the goth scene can be traced back, are you saying that the DNA of the goth scene is directly linked to an aspect of Alice Cooper?
Oh yeah, especially the mascara, the hair dye, and a lot of the kind of,
because I thought it was
disheveled, really fancy dress and stuff like that. That's all Alice.
Oh my god, I can't believe I didn't put two and two together until now. Because I thought it was all the modern interpretation of the goth was like Susie and the Banshees, Bauhaus, and like,
well, yeah, I mean,
all the contributions.
That's where that all came from, but they all took it from Alice Cooper.
And then all of the kind of accessibility to the goth stuff was really made by Tim Burton. Because
and he was heavily influenced by it as well. Him and Vincent Price.
There you go. Alice Cooper. See, even I, as old as I am, I'm learning new stuff every day.
And this is what I try to do with this show, is draw it back to where it originally came from. That's why I did the history of rock and roll and brought it all the way back to Fats Domino in 1952.
That's right.
Like, that's where this started. And that's... yeah, Darth Bane did have similar eye makeup to Alice. And it wouldn't surprise me if by then, even Hollywood was doing stuff like that. God knows Tim Burton took some of the style of Edward Scissorhands and stuff like that from that kind of style.
Yeah. The hair, for example.
Yep. Actually, wouldn't be surprised if Alice kind of has cameos in a lot of that stuff, because that seems like his kind of thing, to just kind of be there in the background of like, hi guys.
He played Freddy Krueger's dad in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. His adopted dad, because Freddy was the bastard son of 1,000 Maniacs.
I don't remember. Is he in Rocky Horror?
Who?
Alice.
I've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I don't. Chat, you'll probably know if he is or not, but it fits. Like, that kind of aesthetic and that kind of weird, kind of wacky, dark comedy is exactly where you'd find someone like Alice Cooper.
That's okay. Now I know why Blackie would have done the YMCA movie. or the Village. I don't know if it was the YMCA movie or the Village People movie, but recently Blackie was asked this question about did you cameo in this like film back in the day? And it was a film that was in the same vein as the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That kind of like comedy of it. And
Yeah.
since Blackie is such a huge fan of Alice, I'm sure like, okay, if Alice is doing it and he thinks it's cool, I'm going to do it. I'll do this. And you can see him as an extra in the background.
Yeah.
If I remember the name of the movie, I'll let you know.
And that's like the perfect cameo for somebody like that, because they're not actors. Although Alice would do pretty well, even in a leading role in something like that.
Alice is actually a very, very underrated actor.
Well, I mean, that's his whole thing. Is his whole character is an act. So I think he would do pretty well. I think he would. I think he's done a lot of stuff over the years, like Halloween specials and stuff with like Elvira and stuff like that, because that's a very similar type of thing too.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
That kind of also spins out of Alice's, or at the very least is a very similar idea to what he was doing. And when he's that early on the scene, because like nobody was doing this shit in 72.
Yeah.
Like, and then you just had Alice Cooper up there doing that. And I think that kind of is why he's as famous as he is, but I don't want to take away from his music as well, because he's a very good rock and roll artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, he also has this aspect on top of it that put him as one of the legends of the genre.
Right. Absolutely.
Trying to think of other ones, like Queen is another example where a lot of their music is fairly not generic, but like not the best stuff you've ever seen. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like a lot of their early shit I love, but a lot of like their mid 80s stuff is just, it's all right. But they would have been nothing without Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
And that massive stage presence he had and that persona he had. Same thing with Judas Priest and Rob Halford.
Mm-hmm.
Is Judas Priest was just another rock and metal band until they found Glenn and Rob.
Who came up with it? Was it because people are now saying that KK actually
he was the original guitar player, yeah.
Well, that he came up with the leather look. That he started adding the leather stuff before Rob.
That I would have to look back into, but that I think Rob's been doing that since like 78, 79 with Hellbent for Leather.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it started happening after KK released KK's Priest.
Yeah, and I see this rift forming between KK and the band.
And I don't like stupid. I don't like it either. I thought the rock.
Although I will give KK credit where it is due. I read an interview recently where he was talking about like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction and how he got to play with Richie Faulkner, and he said he had nothing but good things to say about Richie, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, they should be a 3-guitar band right now. Just like Iron Maiden is.
Though they should be a 2-guitar band with KK coming back.
Yes.
Because Glenn can't really play anymore. He's still on the writing team, and that's still more than acceptable.
Jason Becker can't play anything, and he's still making music.
Very true.
So
that is very, very true.
As long as your brain is working, and it doesn't matter what your body can do. You're still songwriting. That's why it pisses me off when I hear all these people say, "Oh, it's not Judas Priest is a tribute band now because Glenn isn't touring." It's like he's one of the main core songwriters between him and Rob. The third person was KK.
Yeah, Glenn.
Now it's
KK
Richie.
We're the trio. Now
we're the trio.
Glenn,
now it's
KK,
Richie.
and Richie.
Right.
And I believe Andy's in there now as well because he's the producer.
So without Glenn, you're not going to hear the same type of Judas Priest. You might hear a radically different version of Judas Priest than you're used to. It didn't fall off that much with KK because I don't know. I think KK split a lot of the percentage between the three. I don't know. Who do you think was the bit more bigger contributor to them to like the songwriting? KK, Rob, or Glenn?
I
Or
don't think you can pick. I think it was the combination of the three of them that made it work.
right?
Because
I
Glenn
hear
and
it.
KK had been working, especially towards the end, because Glenn and KK had been working together for damn near 40 years at that point.
Yeah.
So they were just two halves of the same brain, essentially,
You know
and
what?
coming up with stuff constantly.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the biggest adjustment for Glenn to get used to is not having KK around and having this new guy. But
Oh my
apparently,
God.
Richie is one of those guys that as soon as he just hit the ground, he just got it.
Absolutely. Oh,
He
like
just understood the assignment day one.
I went to the Judas Priest retirement tour, which at the time they called the Epitaph Tour, which was 2011. I saw them at the Concord Pavilion in
Yep.
Concord,
At least they
California.
didn't bill it as a farewell tour.
At least, yeah, they never said it was a farewell tour. They said it was Epitaph, and everybody knows what Epitaph means. So you kind of assumed it was the final tour.
Yeah, true.
And that is in part why they hired Richie.
But again, we go
Because
back to that you imply it, you don't say it.
right, you imply, you don't say. Richie, I was personally impressed. I had seen Richie in the Lauren Harris band, and he was the one that was standing out the most to me when she opened for Iron Maiden, her dad's band, a year prior at the same
Oh
venue.
yeah, I've seen that. I felt so bad.
I did too. It's like they're booing your daughter because they want to see
And
you
there's
instead of
nothing
your
you can
daughter.
do about it either because you're the one that put it out there.
Right. Oh man.
And it's
But
just like, oh, and then of course, I think shortly before he joined Priest, he was on Christopher Lee's metal albums.
that's right. He did the he wrote the music for the Charlemagne stuff.
Which,
Okay.
if you guys have not heard that shit, it's Christopher Lee singing metal about Charlemagne.
Who
Listen,
he's related to, by the way.
yes, although as 70s pointed out to me at one time, like half of Europe is related to Charlemagne at this point. He's like
Oh, yeah.
he's like the Genghis Khan of Europe. And Lord Thoth, that's right. I forgot it is Thanksgiving up in Canada, so have a happy Thanksgiving and
Happy
thanks for hanging out,
Thanksgiving.
man.
I heard it, you guys were having a Thanksgiving. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, man.
And yes, Assassin, you're right. Never trust retirement tours, especially if it's Kiss
Or Ozzy.
or Ozzy. Although if you buy tickets to a Kiss farewell tour, you deserve what you get at this point.
Yes.
This is like the 5th time they've done it. And I think we were talking about this last week with Imperatus. Like, who's done it more, Kiss or the Eagles? Where like, oh yeah, this is the last time, we promise.
I
5
don't
years
even
later,
remember.
oh yeah, we wanted to give it another go. I think we still have some left in the tank. Which Kerry King's starting to make rumblings about that with Slayer.
That's fuck Kerry King, and I'm going to tell you why. Jeff Hanneman was the main guy who was the soul of Slayer and the core songwriter.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, don't get me
because of
wrong, like,
him.
Kerry's
You don't get.
a good guitar player, but I hate a lot of his solos.
They suck.
Yeah,
They honestly they suck.
and
Jeff
Slayer's fast-paced banger rhythm guitar riffs are just where it's at.
fucking phenomenal. That's what Jeff Hanneman and Lombardo are the reason Slayer is still fucking played today.
Mhm.
As much as I love Tom screaming and Kerry King's, I guess, bald head or presence, those two are the reasons why Slayer is so respected and
And
heralded.
even the stuff that Kerry did really well, like, Angel of Death or Raining
Right.
Blood or stuff like that, I like the song better when Gary Holt plays it.
Yeah. Think about it. Hell Awaits, the creepy version of Slayer, that was all Jeff.
Yeah, that was a lot of that was like the Raining Blood era. That was mostly Jeff's writing, and Kerry just kind of did the weird solos on it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, wasn't that shortly before Jeff died?
Jeff
that what
died Jeff died from some bizarre fucking spider bite that turned into like a flesh-eating something.
Oh
And-
yeah. Which talk about weird way to go for a rock star.
I know.
Because I mean,
And
especially for a guitar player, usually it's a plane crash.
oh, 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 hey, that's yeah. Guitarists die in plane crashes. Drummers die in car accidents.
Yep. And singers die of drug overdoses.
Yeah.
It's
Cozy
kind of a
Powell.
weird pattern that develops. And we've said it on 70s show a ton of times. Like, if you like your guitar player, don't let him anywhere near a small aircraft or helicopter.
Right. Put him on a Boeing. Make sure it's a Boeing or a McDonnell Douglas.
Yeah, right. It's just like, put him on either a commercial airliner or have him take the bus.
Right.
And yeah, Christopher Lee's Metal Christmas is a absolute classic, and everyone here should own it. Right alongside Motorhead's Merry Fucking Christmas.
Rob Halford also has a Christmas album.
Yeah, and it's actually really good too. It's not
I haven't
the
heard
thing ever, but it's a really good Christmas album.
I haven't heard Iced Earth's Christmas album. It's technically not an Iced Earth album. It's
it's John Schaefer doing a Christmas album.
It's a Schaefer Matt Barlow collaboration for a Christmas album, which is good because Iced Earth and Christmas album should never be in the same sentence. Sorry, I don't want the band who wrote Dante's fucking Inferno to write a Christmas album. Stop.
I mean, I kind of want to see what that'd sound like. It would almost be like, I would love to see what an Alice Cooper Christmas album would look like, but we've seen it. It's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. There you go.
And it's amazing. But oh man, like, he's just had so much influence, even like I said, on wider culture, not even just music. Like I said, Tim Burton's was influenced by him. And all that darker aesthetic that you saw in like the 90s, it's like pretty much Alice Cooper and the Addams Family are like 80% of the goth identity.
I cannot believe I hadn't put this together until now. And I had done like studies on like how the origins of Gothic modern popular culture, of how people, when they hear the word goth scene or Gothic, what image visual comes to mind, and they think of like a Tim Burton movie or Tim Burton himself, or they think of Elvira, or they think of Susie and the Banshees, stuff like that.
Or like I said, the Addams Family.
Or the Addams Family. Stuff like that.
And you know who's done stuff with pretty much all that is Alice Cooper. It's one of those things where it's like, even if he's not directly involved, he's kind of just the top. He's just kind of where everybody got it from.
You'll have to excuse me if you hear like loud fighter jet engines, coming in through my window. It's Fleet Week here in the Bay Area, and the Blue Angels.
Yep.
And I fucking love the Blue Angels, and I love fucking the screaming of those afterburner engines.
There's a reason Top Gun was popular.
Have you ever heard an F-14 thrust its afterburners? It is one of the scariest, most awesome sounds you will ever hear. I get chills just thinking about the memory of it.
Yeah, where I used to live was like right under the flight path for Hanscom Air Force Base. So every year they used to do an air show. So sometime during the summer. So we could just sit out in our backyard and just watch the air show.
Fucking awesome, man.
It was a great time. And they had F-14s there. The Blue Angels had come a bunch of times.
I've never seen an F-22. I have to see an F-22 live.
Back in those days, the F-22 was still highly classified, so they weren't bringing that around to shows yet.
Yeah, but I got it.
I have seen one flying though on September 11th, 2001.
Who?
I did actually see one fly over my house. So that was pretty interesting. And yeah, Soul Assassin. I mean, before that became like an entire personality of the Hot Topic generation, because we all hate those people.
Yeah, it's like there's always for every Coca-Cola classic, there's always a Diet Right.
Yeah, pretty
There's the
much.
cheap Walmart imitation.
Or I'll put it this way, like 40s Coke, like when it was actually like Coca-Cola versus new Coke,
Yeah,
the one everyone hated.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's in the same bottle. That doesn't mean it's the same.
You can't
Um,
judge a book by its cover.
yeah, pretty much. But I mean, I think we've covered pretty much everything with Alice's impact on it. Like, I'm not going to go through every one of his records. I mean, some of the high points of his career, especially individual songs like, School's Out, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Poison, Feed My Frankenstein, stuff like that. He's been around forever. Most of you know who he is, if not a lot of his music. A lot of you probably heard his music and never actually connected the dots that that's Alice Cooper, because it is very different from his aesthetic.
I'm just ashamed. I'm sort of embarrassed and ashamed of myself at the same time when I'm realizing how big of an impact Alice Cooper has actually made on culture in
Well,
general
like I
in the
kind of
United
went down
States.
the rabbit hole with him this week. Is that I was doing like the rise of heavy metal. I'm like, oh, Alice was around at this time. Let's see, kind of how he interacted. And then like pretty much every third reference I hear is to Alice Cooper.
Okay, yeah, he was the first one to throw the chicken and throw the animals into the audience and
Like,
have
yeah, like even before, Ozzy was doing it on stage, like that's
right.
where he kind of got it from. Even
There
if when it
wasn't
comes
a,
to like the big elaborate stage sets and stuff like that you'd see in the 80s, that's where everybody got it from. Is Alice Cooper was doing it and it was hugely popular. So everybody else started doing it. Everybody from
amazing,
like the prog rock scene all the way down to the metalheads.
amazing.
And then, they kind of jumped the shark in the mid 80s a little bit when the stage equipment was worth more than the production budget for the album.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm looking at you, Poison.
yeah, or like the Fight for Life tour for Judas Priest, where they had the actual fucking beast from Defenders of the Faith
Oh yeah,
as their drum riser.
yeah,
That was like when it kind of was like, I think that's why you saw that dial back in the late 80s. Because a
right.
lot of the record companies were looking at the balance sheet for some of the tours and like, okay, we've gone too far now.
Can we cut the cost a little bit here and here and here?
Yeah, it's like
Look at this
we give you guys a
new.
lot of leeway because you guys are our big sellers right now, but you
We're
got to
looking for
dial it
that
back.
new scene.
It's
See,
like
the
you
record,
got to dial it back
yeah, and
because
then
you're
people wonder
costing us
why.
more than you're making us.
See, the record companies kind of shot themselves in the foot when they went after grunge because they wanted to save money and, like bleed a new fan base that wasn't as expensive and by kind of like definition is not expensive
Yeah, it's very
because
cheap music to make, but
it's
it's
cheap
also
music to
very cheap
make,
music to watch too.
it's cheap to watch, not a stage show, just the instrumentation
And
and the
again,
amplifier.
that's why grunge went away very quickly, and guys like Alice Cooper are still here.
Right.
Because like you come because you heard him on the radio, and you stay because you saw him live at once, and now you have to see him every time he comes through because it's just a spectacle. It's like when the circus comes to town.
And it's not like the record companies weren't, you know, I mean, the record companies, you're gonna get fucked, right? Every
Pretty much.
musician who came up during that era when the record companies were actually record companies in the United States, not like small independent labels with like a PO box in Germany. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we're talking like Columbia
Ca-
Records, RCA,
Right.
Atlantic.
Warner Brothers, Geffen,
Yep,
Elektra, those
like the
motherfuckers.
big guys,
Yeah. They were going to fuck you, but
or they were
they
going to
had,
try at the very least.
they were going to try. But what happened was you got behind you the machine, the media machine that they would have.
Well, that was the Faustian bargain a lot of bands made. Is like, yeah, there's a lot of restrictions that come with being on Geffen or Atlantic Records or RCA, but you also have RCA Records fucking backing you up.
Right.
So, like, yeah, you pay a lot of money, like you lose a lot of money to them, but at the same time, you got them in your corner.
Exactly. How do you think Vince Neil avoided, prison time?
Oh God, yeah. Anybody else that did what he did would have been in jail,
Yeah.
in very, very big boy jail
Yeah.
forever.
Yep.
But because he was on a major record label, they kind of knew how to pay people off to make it go away.
Even he admitted that he was the OJ of his time.
Oh God, yeah. Because that was huge news too. It wasn't like they swept it under the rug and made it go away.
No.
Like, you can't make something like that just disappear.
Right.
The way I've referred to him in the past is the Ted Kennedy of rock and roll.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's a great. Yeah. Chappaquiddick.
Yep. And I do feel really bad for him later in life because, I mean, obviously he lost his kid and all that. So,
Yeah.
like, my heart goes out to the man. What that doesn't mean he hasn't turned into a meme.
Yeah.
Because
His solo band. Is it me, or does he and his solo band sound better than he does right now on Motley Crue?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to sound worse than he sounds right now in Motley Crue. Especially the look too. Like, a lot of guys look like they've taken care of themselves over the years. Alice Cooper still looks like he's in great shape, even though he's 75.
Right.
Vince Neil looks worse than him at 50.
I know.
He looks like he ate Vince Neil.
Alice was smart. Alice got, I don't know how long Alice has been sober, but Alice is
I don't know that he was ever real. I think he was back in like the late 70s, but he got sat down and turned around pretty quick.
Yes, because Alice was a huge.
Because I remember seeing an interview with Dave Mustaine, and Alice tried to do the same to him.
Yeah.
And tried to sit him down and be like, "Look, if you keep going this way, you're gonna die.
You're gonna burn out. Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah."
Because
I've seen it before.
Mid '80s when Dave was absolutely out of control,
out of his mind. Have you seen that video of him in 1988 at a live show in Oakland, California? Where he's just saying,
yeah. That's how you become a local legend.
Watch that video, people. You'll piss yourself laughing.
Oh, it's so embarrassing. It's almost as embarrassing as that video of Danzig getting his ass beat by one of his fans. And speaking of guys who were influenced by him, if you listen to a lot of the stuff like I'm 18 or stuff like that, We're Welcome to My Nightmare, it sounds very similar to early Danzig.
Yes, it does.
Because Glenn kind of got that sound and that kind of creepy aesthetic from that.
Even the way the lyrics are written, phrase-wise and verse-wise, is different and more kind of closer to an Alice Cooper than a Misfits.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's much
Misfits was punk. Much less punk, and the way the lyrics are even expressed. Yeah, creepy, dark, but catchy.
Which is really funny because I believe he himself, I don't know that he's a Christian, but I know he is kind of a very moral, kind of reserved man in his own life. And also never wanted to swear or do anything that outrageous on stage. And ended up spawning guys like King Diamond, Glenn Danzig, and all those guys.
I know, right?
It's like, oh, I may have made a mistake. It's like, well, you understood the first part of the assignment. I take no responsibility for where this ended up.
Yeah.
But no, with all that being said, man, we've been going for a while now, and
holy shit, it has been
talking an hour and a half about, again, it takes this long to cover a guy like Alice. But we could do more. We could go through albums, but it's one of those things of go listen to the man. He's everywhere. And with that all being said, what do you got coming up in the near future, man?
Oh man, I am still settling into this new place I moved into. I haven't created any new content for a while. Football season's going on, so I'm a little distracted with that. And I'm doing. So basically, bottom line is, I'm not having any content on the channel lately. I'm just kind of taking a break from the Sentinel channel for a quick minute as I'm dealing with a few personal things. But if you want to catch me, I'm the just type in the Sentinel. You'll see me immediately. And I'm on Instagram at the Sentinel 43, and you can find me on Twitter at the Sentinel 831.
Outstanding. And I believe I put a link to his channel over down in the description for those of you who want to check him out.
Thank you.
Before I get into what I'm up to, we did have a little bit of news, and this is something I may do fairly regularly going forward. I may even finally break down and do YouTube shorts of little news metal news segments and stuff like that. Yesterday, October 7th, Judas Priest announced that they are coming out with the new album Invincible Shield on March 8th, 2024. So you heard it here first, motherfuckers. We're getting new Judas Priest, and I am going to be simping so hard for this goddamn record. You'll
6 fucking
most of
years.
you will unsub from this channel because I will be absolutely obnoxious.
Yes.
But and obviously we're both going to be getting it the day of release. I may even plan out we'll do a live first listen to it on Rumble.
Yeah. That would be fucking awesome.
And give you guys, and maybe not just us too. I may get a bunch of other people to try it and see if we can make it work. Then all listen to it live and then see what we think.
That's a genius idea. Do like a live reaction live stream.
Yeah, and it's not too different from what we used to do back in the day, where we used to go get a new record at the store, come home, and then sit around with our friends and play it.
Yeah.
And then just kind of talk about it. Like, yeah, what do you guys think? So that may be something we toy around with in the background. And I may try to keep you guys more updated, because I keep my ear to the ground a little bit on metal news and stuff like that. But I don't really bring it up on the channel unless it's something huge like this. Like we're getting a new Judas Priest record. God, am I fucking hyped. But I may do that more regularly in the future and keep you guys up to date on that. So that may be another segment that I start doing on here. As for me, you can always find me here for Rock and Roll Religion every Sunday at 4 or 5-ish, depending on my schedule and everybody else's. You can find me Thursdays for either History of Rock and Roll stream or Random Fandom, where we kind of talk about other stuff that I'm into and want to get more in depth on. I know we've done 40K, BattleTech, and Star Trek at this point. I kind of want to go deeper into some of those before we get too far down the track here, because a lot of those have much, much deeper settings and stuff like that. So I may do more of those. But also, we're going to be doing some more exclusive stuff over on Rumble in the near future, because I'm going to try to get that working.
I have a Rumble channel myself, so
yes, absolutely go check him out. I believe it's just the Sentinel over on Rumble, right?
Yeah, and it's a mix of different things. You're going to see. I had to take a football video that I had made for a channel and put it on there because the NFL's like, if you thought audio was bad, the NFL will fuck your channel up.
Absolutely fucking thing. And so, yeah, I'll have to come up with an interesting review album, maybe 1 or 2 Pope hats out of 5 or something like that. Or we'll shop that around and see what we come up with. I'll give it to my writers now that they're off strike.
I based on my character and the avatar, I'm going to go on the 10 metallic talons. 7 out of 10 metallic talons.
I thought you were going to go with dead commies on that one, but either one works.
Who do you think the blood on the talons is from?
You're not wrong. That is a very good point. But with that all being said, stay tuned for all that, guys. And obviously, if it comes when we get a little closer, I'll keep you guys up to date on all that when I actually figure out what the fuck I'm doing. And with that all being said, take care, stay safe. I love you all, and I'll catch you next time.